We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell, smash the like button, share the video if you want to support this national independent college football's rebel outpost with a donation. Help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make your comments and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Welcome on in. It is Saturday. It's a Saturday with no college football. It is Saturday, January 31st. But that doesn't stop the most unpopular college football national independent show in the country. It doesn't stop us from talking college football. Today, we're going to quickly go through the College Sports Commission is finally in action. And I got a feeling we're going to be covering CSC stories here in the offseason. The LSU thing, it's all done. It sounds like LSU cooperated. It wasn't about football. And there have been other, it sounds like from Ross Dellinger, Other schools have been notified about something they did wrong, and so far the schools are cooperating. We did something wrong. All right, we're going to resolve this. We're going to resolve that. Again, I got a feeling there's going to be bigger stories out there that the CSC is going to come down hard, and then we'll wait to see what happens. But so far, it sounds like the CSC is finally acting. All right. And then we're going to go through an article written by Christopher Lambert, the dude of West Virginia. He wrote a well thought out article, letter for everybody to read. And I asked permission if I could read this letter here. We're going to show it up. We're going to put it up on the screen. If I could read the letter out loud for all of you guys to take in. And he gave me permission to do that. So I want to thank Christopher Lambert for giving us PATC the permission to put out in public his letter about what the ACC and the Big 12 should do. I agree with a lot of what he says in the letter. You put down your comments in the comments section. We're going to open up the phone lines for you all to give your thoughts and comments. There's a couple parts where I disagree with them, but it doesn't even have to do with the ACC Big 12 part of it. I do believe there are Big 10 schools. Minnesota was one of them that struggled to do the rev share deal. But little things that I disagreed with on the $20.5 million to do the whole thing. But I understand what he is saying, I believe. I agree with a lot of it. Basically, there are 4 scenarios out there. That is the future of the Big 12 and the ACC. And I was going to go over this on another live show. I got a notebook, and I write down these thoughts and ideas, and I'm writing down stuff that I've been told, and I keep a ledger. I keep records, okay? You should see my records, and no, you can't see my records on the USC story. Thank goodness I had that written down, because when we were interviewed by the Los Angeles Times, I could read off what I said in real time during that whole event. I got interviewed 4 different times for that one article, but I had the information. So I keep records, and I'm going through the notebook, and then Christopher Lambert reached out to me, and I read his letter, and I said, can I read your letter? Because it kind of fits to what I'm going to go with here. There's basically 4 different scenarios when it comes to the ACC and the Big 12. One is, and later on I'm going to list them in order of what I think is most likely to happen. I'm not doing that now, but I'm just listing the 4 possible scenarios. One is what I would call the miracle merger. Is the miracle merger the only method of survival to be able to compete at the highest levels for most or all of the ACC schools, or for most of all of the Big 12 schools? The miracle merger. That's one option of where this is going to be heading. Number 2 is the ACC gets poached. Possibly a couple of schools of the Big 12 get poached. The ACC and the Big 12 continue to be in their own world, their own planets. There is no merger, and they fight it out, and they fight it out, and they fight it out to see who remains as number 3, and then who becomes number 4. And as Christopher Lambert, I think, is trying to illustrate, that ain't going to work. Not for most of the schools in those conferences. That is another option. Another option is the ACC does a reimagined ACC, where they do their own contraction. where they create their own 8, 10, 12 team conference among the ACC schools that right now exist, with the potential of poaching a couple of Big 12 teams. But mostly a reimagined ACC school that is already kind of written up in the ACC settlement with Clemson and Florida State, where at least 6 ACC schools or more, but at least 6, could leave the ACC on or prior to 2030 and form a football-only conference, and you only have to pay out $75 million per school to the ACC to be able to create that reimagined ACC. And then whatever is left of the ACC, the schools that are not included in this reimagined ACC, possibly maybe a couple of them get poached by the Big 12, but most likely they just backfill and they become the ACC. There's quite a big a gap between the Big 12 and the ACC at that point. The other option, the fourth option, and I'm not ranking them right now, what is most likely, I'll do that later on. The fourth option is the best of the rest, where the ACC and the Big 12 schools are talking cloak and dagger style to each other, without the commissioners being included, without either commissioner being included, and they create a best of the rest conference in which that's the fourth option. So those are the 4 scenarios that are in the future of the ACC and the Big 12. The best of the rest, a reimagined ACC, or we continue on where the ACC gets poached by the Big 10 and the SEC and some of the Big 12, and then the Big 12 and the ACC keep battling each other. We'll just call that the status quo, or the miracle merger, which Christopher Lambert and other people are pounding the drum saying, we should be looking at this. We should be looking at this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, put down your comments and thoughts in the comments section below the video. I'm going to be taking your phone calls later on to get your thoughts and ideas about this. Super chat, supersede, everything else. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll go through a roll call real quick, but we got to get to the super chats. John Till leads us off. Holy smokes. John Teal super chat talking about the miracle merger between ACC and the Big 12. They better combine like peanut butter and jelly. It better not be like hamburger and cheese, I'll tell you that. But peanut butter and jelly, thank you for the $2 holler, John Teal. I appreciate your generosity once again. Thank you, sir. If they do it, it better work. That's what John Teal is saying. It better work like peanut butter and jelly. Carson with his super chat. Carson, we are live. We are live. Thanks for joining us, Carson. Thank you to everybody for joining us on a live show. I know you all got lives. You've all got busy lives. You've all got to shovel out there. You all got to do whatever you do. You got to go shopping. You got to take the wife out to a movie. Whatever you got to do. But thank you for joining us at least for a couple of minutes. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Carson, thank you for the $2 holler. Thank you for your incredible generosity. And we got Larry McCauley. Holy smokes. Larry McCauley, thank you for the $20 holler. Holy smokes. God bless you and my Razorbacks. You are the Don Meredith of our time. Well, my singing, turn out the lights. Yeah, it's okay. It's about as good as Don Meredith, or about as bad as Don Meredith. I am a little bit of a clown. I am the mayor of Louisville City. I'm not as good looking as Don Meredith. Don Meredith, I'm not afraid to say this, was a very handsome individual. The fat guy from Minnesota. So in that regards, I'm not like Don Meredith, nor was I an athlete like Don Meredith, a former quarterback. But I do appreciate what you're trying to say, Larry McCauley. Thank you so much. And I will say this. The one thing that the Razorbacks and my beloved Golden Gophers have in common is the great Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz has been put in hospice. Technically, what that really means is a person is projected to be with us. Is projected no longer to be with us after 6 months. It's like a 6-month range. So that's what hospice means. I as a caretaker over the last 10 years, I'm very familiar with the transition. It's a difficult one, but again, your job is to make it easy on the person who is transitioning, and Lou Holtz is in hospice, and we all know that he is being taken great care. Lou Holtz is being taken great care, an incredible family around him. He's got a lot of prayers. He's got a lot of, I don't care if you agree with him. If everybody has disagreed with Lou Holtz from time to time. Everybody has yelled at the TV and said, "You're crazy, Lou. You're crazy." Is announcing a game, or he's a head coach, or halftime speech, or just whatever he's saying. But Lou Holtz is one of the good guys. Overall, he is. He's one of God's children, like all of us. And our prayers go out to Lou Holtz and his family. He was the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. He was the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. A lot of you probably don't even know that. Before he went to Notre Dame, he was the head coach of Minnesota for a couple of years. And it was at the time when Minnesota was at its lowest. And we've been low. We haven't, when people think about Minnesota Golden Gopher football, they think of us as the bottom dwellers. We've actually, since PJ Fleck has been here the last 9 years, we've been a little bit above average in the Big 10. Check out the records. I have posted them. I've talked about it. But before that, I'm talking the 90s, the 80s, the Gophers were at the bottom. There was no way that Minnesota, we left Memorial Stadium and we went into the Dome. We went into the Metrodome, which was horrible for college football. It couldn't be any worse, guys. It could not be any, it was death to the football program. And we were in there for a lot of years, and it was terrible. And Lou Holtz became the head coach in Minnesota when we were down and out, and he revived us. Now, his second year, I think the Gophers might have finished above 500. I think so. Somebody look at the records. I think they went to a bowl game in his second year, and there was all this excitement. But in Lou Holtz's contract, it was written, there would be no buyout, there would be nothing. Lou Holtz could easily leave Minnesota if Notre Dame came a-calling. And what happened? Well, you guessed it. Even in 1987, 86, I was the mayor of Louisville City. I've been the mayor of Louisville City for decades. And Notre Dame, of course, they came a-calling. They came a-knocking, and we lost Lou Holtz. And back down the tube we went. So Lou Holtz, Larry McCauley, and I have Lou Holtz in common. Arkansas Razorback, Minnesota Golden Gopher, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, won the national championship. What was his... give me a second here. Give me a moment. I posted this yesterday. Here we go. You want to be happy for an hour? This is Lou Holtz. You want to be happy for an hour? Eat a steak. You want to be happy for a day? Play golf. You want to be happy for a week? Go on a cruise. You want to be happy for a lifetime? Put your faith in Jesus Christ. Lou Holtz, the one and only Lou Holtz, in hospice, and our prayers go out to him. Larry McCauley, I know your super chat was not about Lou Holtz, but I thought I would tie the Gophers and the Arkansas Razorbacks into that. Thank you for the compliment. I'm going to take the Don Meredith as a compliment. Probably the only compliment I'm going to get all day, so I'm going to take it. Thank you, Larry McCauley, for your incredible generosity. I very much appreciate it. Big time super chat. Christopher Huda. Great. Yesterday, September 11th, 1985. This is regarding what we're talking about with Pete Rose yesterday. Charlie Hustle breaks Ty Cobb's 1928 hit record. 4,192 hits. And he's not in the Hall of Fame. Can't make it up. Free Belichick. Free Belichick. Free Pete Rose. Free Barry Bonds, free Roger Clemens, free them all. Put whatever they did wrong on a plaque in the Hall of Fame, but put the best players in baseball in the Hall of Fame. Put Bill Belichick in the Football Hall of Fame. For God's sake, let's go. Thank you for the $5 holler, Christopher Hooter. I very much appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much. We got Jacobra Cat. Jacobra Cat, he usually has a pretty creative comments. He did it again. Jacobra the Cat did it again. ACC merger with the Big 12 is like a barista, the coffee person with a master degree. I think a lot of coffee people, servers, masters of creating your latte, sugar-free vanilla latte, coffee. I think a lot of them do have a master's degree. So I think maybe Jacobra Cat is saying it's possible. Thank you for the $2 holler, Jacobra Cat. Thank you so very much. Praise for Lou Holtz. Praise for Lou Holtz. All right. And then we got the incredible, edible Bill G with his, once again, 5 gifted memberships. 2 connected. Michael Tammer, Cal Bears, Hawks Prods, and D5 Terps, Mr. Terrapin, all received it at a gift membership by the incredible generosity of Bill G. All of you, every single one of you I just mentioned, are knighted officially Cloak and Dagger. That means you can go to our episodes and watch the early peak Cloak and Dagger college football episodes where we drop a nugget of information before we take it live. Become a member. You want to become a member of this program? You want to become a part of this very unique family of college football sickos? go to the description box below the video, hit the link in the box, and become a member. Thank you, Bill G. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your incredible generosity. You've been doing that forever. Thank you, Bill G. Appreciate it. And then GB, California Bear already said thank you to Bill G. Thank you, Cal Bear, for doing that. I appreciate it. A lot of thanks has to go out to Bill G. Flint Dog is in the house. John Dry, Jeff Jorgensen, Bob Swanger, Osceola Trucker. The Seminole Wind is in the house. The Seminole Wind, Christopher Huda, Lee Go Gators. The Big Gun Shop is in the house. Mick Stevens, Go Frogs. Kayla Ramirez doesn't think, I don't think that would satisfy the schools that can go to the Big 10 or the SEC. We'll get to that in a second, but very good thoughts. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Caleb Ramirez, we did talk some Lou Holtz, but thank you for the heads up. Big Gun Shop, appreciate it. Robert Wright is in the house. The question I have, will the big brands stay within a combined league? That's a big hurdle, Robert Wright. It's a big hurdle. We're going to talk about more of it. Who else is here? Larry McCauley, of course, with a very generous super chat. Thank you for coming on in, Mr. McCauley. Stormy Cyclone is in the house. Bigger is better, right? Maybe talk to Rutgers first. It's interesting because what kind of deficit would Rutgers have today if they did not go to the Big Ten? Would it be bigger? Would it be smaller? Would they not be spending like they're doing? They wouldn't be taking in the revenue like they've been doing. Would it be smaller? Maybe it would be. Maybe it would be. Olarmy is in the house. I don't really talk basketball, David B. I'm sorry. I just don't have the bandwidth. I talk more NBA than I talk college basketball. MBM, yeah, no merger. No merger. Marcus Williams is in the house. I don't think Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, UNC, Virginia, Utah, and Kansas want this merger. You could be, and you're probably correct, Marcus Williams, but there is factions at UNC, Virginia, Georgia Tech that want other options, and this might be one of them. We'll get into it in a bit. Outlaw Skis is in the house. Bruce Harris is here. This dude, a West Virginia letter, is the first of a 4-part piece. Yeah, we only got part 1, and when he gives me permission to talk about part 2, we will talk about part 2, if he gives me permission. John Grove is in the house. Tom DeBay is here. Rodney Richborg, the undisputed, defending, reigning college football trivia champion. We got to have another college football trivia competition now that we're in the off season. I'll give you enough of a heads up to prepare yourself. But Rodney Richborg is the second champion we've had. The first one was Moen, and then Rodney Richborg won competition, the World Champion Trivia Championship, number 2. Bimba 7579 is in the house. MG Sooner is here. Nick Kelsel. McGuire too, yes. Dale Donuts. David Kreitzer is in the house. Illinois RevShare, 75-15-5-5. That seems to be the model that most people are going with. $15 million to football. Yeah, that seems to be the model that most are going with. Now, I will say this. Minnesota Gophers have, their model looks a little different. Excuse me. I don't have the precise numbers, But if you have a Minnesota 247, if you have a 247 subscription, you go to the Minnesota site, the great Ryan Burns, and he is the great Ryan Burns, the owner of the Minnesota 247 site, who gave me a lot of opportunities, and I took them. He wrote a great comment about University of Minnesota athletics. And there is there is some disappointment around Golden Gopher country because, as he writes, the Gophers are like top 10 in the country when it comes, the back half of the top 10, when it comes to investment in the women's basketball. And when is the last time their women's basketball team has even made the dance? They're the top 15 in volleyball investment in the country. And they're not winning. I mean, they're an incredible conference. It's very hard to win. I mean, I get that, but we're not getting what the money that and we're talking about men's hockey. We haven't won a national championship in 20 years in men's hockey. And we invest more than anybody. We make way more than anybody does in men's hockey. But the ones, I'm sorry, I'm getting all upset. But all these Olympic sports, now men's hockey, we do make money. But the other ones, we're right in line. We're ahead of people in investing money. And we're punching below our weight class. In football, where we don't spend the money like everybody else is in the Big 10 football, we're punching above our weight class, and yet our investment remains flatlined. It is. We are the lowest in the country in coaching staff salary. I mean, lowest in the Big 10. We're lowest in the Big 10 in about everything when it comes to football. Our record isn't. We continue to finish above 500 in the Big 10. But everything else we're investing more money in, and we're not doing anything. We're not winning anything. We're not winning jack. But in football, our investment is flatlined, and everyone is going up, and we're continuing. PJ Fleck is doing more with less every single year. God, I don't know why I went that way. This is not a Golden Gopher football program. I apologize. Thank you, David Kreitzer, for that comment. Illinois, so the Gophers rev share isn't like this. It isn't $15.4 million for football. It's less than that. Anyways, I'm getting off that. I'm for USM. We need a separate champion for the group of 6. There's a huge gulf between the halves. Okay. But be careful what you wish for. Because if you... I understand what you're saying. I understand what everybody else is saying. I get it. But I'm not going to campaign for a separate championship for the group of 6 based upon the financial split between the group of 6 and the Power 4. Because then people are going to start arguing that the Big 10 and the SEC should have their own championship because of the gulf between them and the Big 12 and the ACC. I don't want to cut the G6. If they're going to take the G6 out of the playoffs, out of competing at FBS highest level, they're going to have to do it out of my dead hands. They're going to have... I am going to fight every moment for the G6, because once that goes, now the Big 12 and the ACC schools are more in danger. And I don't want any of that to happen. As you all know, I'm the Army of 24. I want 2 G6 schools into the playoffs. Okay. Minnesota Fortune 500 companies there is some movement there. I'm talking about the University of Minnesota investment. I'm talking about the investment. But the Fortune 500, Cub Foods has done wonderful things this year for the Gopher Sports football program on NIL. Ed Cook is in the house. Okay. Again, everybody wants the G6 to split away. I don't think you guys want that to happen. But, all right. We've got a super chat. Super chat from Carson369. I bet the Pac-12 wish they merged. There is a first mover advantage when it comes to negotiating a media deal. Thank you, Carson. I appreciate it. I bet the Pac-12 wish they merged with the Big 12. Is that what you're saying? I don't think USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon wish that now, but there may be a few Pac-12 schools that wish that would have happened. But then again, Colorado or Arizona State, and Utah is in the Big 12. How about this? Washington State and Oregon State wish that it would have been a merger. Thank you, Carson. Thank you for the $5 holler. I do appreciate it. Again, let's first get into, and then we're going to go into Christopher Lambert's well-written, thought-out article about the main thing we're talking about today. A miracle merger, is that the method of survival? But first, Matt Baker, when we did a live show yesterday, he broke this news that the College Sports Commission has opened an investigation into LSU over potential unreported NIL deals. The Tigers are the first known program under an inquiry from the new enforcement body. Then Ross Dellinger added on several college programs, at least one in the Big 10, one in the Big 12. In addition to LSU, have received letters of inquiry from the CSC over the last few weeks over athletes not reporting NIL deals. Some have already been resolved through communications with CSC officials. And then later, here's LSU's statement about the letter of inquiry, which, as reported above, several programs have received over the last couple of weeks, and many have already been resolved. A source tells Yahoo Sports that LSU's inquiry letter is not related to football. We have been in regular communication with the CSC since the organization formation and appreciate their ongoing collaboration and guidance. We anticipate the specific inquiry will be resolved shortly. We will not comment further on regulatory matters. So, I might be naive, I might be a schmuck, but it sounds like, okay, we're getting things resolved. LSU did not come out and blast the CSC. It's going to be resolved. Can you hear me now? All right, I'm gonna go. Let me know if it goes mute again. So I think we got something. I think we got a device that is failing on us again. I'm gonna have to order it. It's gonna take a day to get here, and we're just gonna just let me know. I'll try to pay attention. I'll try for the first time in 4 years. I'm going to try to pay attention to what you guys are actually saying in the comment section so I can quickly try to resolve the issue of the audio. But yeah, we're having problems. We're having problems. All right. Thank you, Jerry Jones. Thank you. I appreciate the Carla Jenkins. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know in the super chat. Thank you, guys. Jacober Cat, Super Chat, does the ACC network push the value of the ACC over the Big 12 like a rhino beetle with a larger horn fighting over a mango slice lost in the grass? Thank you for the $5 holler. You know what? Before I answer that question, but thank you for the $5 holler. Christopher Lambert actually talks about that. So let me let me get, well, the last time my volume went out, it did take me quite a while, right? It took me like 5 minutes, 6 minutes to finally figure out what you guys were yelling at me about. Okay. All right. Christopher Lambert, the atomic noodle. The ACC and the Big 12 are losing a rigged game. Why can't the sound go off like that when Greg starts singing? Holy smokes. Holy smokes. One of the most, and now this is from Christopher Lambert, okay? We're going to go through the article and I'm going to give you my thoughts. You can give me your thoughts, super chats, phone calls. Let's get to it. One of the most entertaining spectacles on social media is the rivalry between fans of the ACC and the Big 12. The debate over which conference will outlast the other becomes so heated at times that it resembles a prize fight. In one corner, we have the ACC fans, made overconfident by the revenue advantage of the ACC network, which Jacoba Cat just asked about. That is an advantage of the ACC. Now, of course, the advantage the Big 12 has is they got a better Tier 1 contract, and the next contract comes up before the ACC's next contract. So the Big 12 has a couple advantages. The ACC has the ACC network advantage. Back to Christopher Lambert's article. In a sense of entitlement, ACC. In the other corner stand the more grounded and long-suffering fans of the Big 12. The debate is great theater. Opinions are more important than facts. Data points are misconstrued, misrepresented, and skewed to prove a point. A large chunk of fans and many content creators would rather defend a comforting story than confront an uncomfortable trajectory. The truth is inconvenient. It doesn't fit the narrative. And when you go look at the data, honestly, what it shows isn't comforting. It's distressing. The uncomfortable truth. Here is the uncomfortable truth fans are avoiding: the economic model. I call it the economic model of consolidation. The economic model of college football is squeezing both the ACC and the Big 12 into irrelevancy. The key factors threatening their power conference status: revenue sharing, unregulated NIL payments, and insufficient conference revenue, combine to fetter both with an almost insurmountable competitive disadvantage when compared to the Big 10 and the SEC. The outlook for the viability of the ACC and the Big 12 is distressing bleak. How bleak? Imagine they are shipwreck survivors in open water with no raft and no hope of rescue. They can tread water for a time, but without resources. The struggle to keep their heads above water brings them ever closer to drowning. The dilemma facing both conferences is fundamentally a capital problem. Across both leagues, nearly every member lacks the resources to keep pace with its peers. The reasons vary by conference and by school. The ACC faces a distinct set of structural constraints. The Big 12 faces a different set. The result, however, is the same, a widening revenue gap that threatens their status as power conferences. Once money becomes the primary determinant of a survival, the outcome was no longer in doubt. The only mystery is how long they can survive. A dire forecast. Prior to 2018-19 seasons, the revenue gap separating the power conferences functioned largely as a point of pride rather than a distinct competitive advantage. That equilibrium began to erode with the launch of the NCAA transfer portal on October 15, 2018, and was shattered when court-mandated revenue sharing took effect on July 1, 2025, increasing the cost of remaining competitively relevant by more than 40%. Revenue sharing is just the canary in the coal mine, foreshadowing the troubled times ahead for the Big 10 and SEC programs. The additional expense amounted to an inconvenience rather than a financial crisis. For many programs in the ACC and the Big 12, however, the mandate exposes an underlying financial strain at schools that already require direct institutional support to balance athletic budgets. How bad is it? It's 13-9 bad. 13-9 bad. And the Mountaineer fans and the Panther fans know what that is all about, that 13-9 score. From the Mountaineers' perspective, the disadvantage facing the ACC and the Big 12 becomes clear when comparing the cost of revenue sharing across conferences. While the Big 10 and the SEC easily absorb the revenue sharing as a manageable share of conference distributions, the same obligation consumes a far larger portion of the ACC and Big 12 revenues, creating a persistent and escalating competitive imbalance. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to hold on right there. And I just want to get to this point real quick. Not all the Big 10 and SEC schools easily absorbed this $20.5 million rev share. It was not easily absorbed by all the schools in the Big 10 and the SEC. My own University of Minnesota did not easily absorb it. There was a movement where the University of Minnesota had to increase a little portion of the student fees that went to the athletic department to cover the extra costs. In Minnesota was not the only, I'm not going to name the other schools because people in the SEC and the Big 10 get upset, but Minnesota was not the only school that had an issue. So, but I will say going forward, from this time forward, if the rev share even stays in place, the cap on the rev share, going forward, as it goes up, in accordance to the ACC settlement, it is going to be easier for the Big 10 and the SEC schools to absorb that cost than for most of the ACC and Big 12 schools. Because the revenue, as Christopher Lambert has already put and says later on in this well-written article, the revenue gap is going to continue to grow. I mean, Just the playoff distribution money. The Big 12 and the ACC schools are going to see the revenue that they're going to receive in this new contract starting right now, starting 2026, is going to go up. But the Big 10 and the SEC, the amount of money that they're going to receive per school from $6 million to $21 million or $23 million in playoff distribution money, again, they're going to see a bigger uplift of revenue. So going forward, it's going to be easier. But again, in this, when the $20.5 million rev share dropped, it was a struggle for many, many schools, even a few of the Big Ten and SEC schools. So I just wanted to point that out. And by 2031, and again, Christopher Lambert goes through this really good here, the projected per school revenue disparity between the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 is expected to grow by 23 to 35 million to 59 million by 2036. And I think we're probably going to get to that 60 million disparity before 2036. Only because I think the SEC is going to renegotiate before the 2034. The Big Ten is going to have 2 bites of the apple before 2036, or the second apple will be at 2. I just think, and the Big Ten's already blown by all their projections of the last current. So 59 million is a conservative number, I would say, that Christopher Lambert has put on his letter. Back to Christopher Lambert, Atomic Noodle article. At the same time, the cost to fully fund revenue sharing is expected to increase by 54% in the next 10 years. Therein lies the danger for both the ACC and the Big 12. Christopher Lambert, is absolutely correct. A perfect storm of converging economic forces is rapidly pricing both leagues out of national relevance, increasing the cost of remaining competitively viable by more than 40%, while leaving both with the limited options to close the gap. The doom spiral. None of the programs in the Big Ten or the SEC will struggle to fully fund revenue sharing, but nearly half of the ACC and the Big 12 will. And that should be a red flag to fans. Why? Because parity is essential to revenue growth. The Big 12 parlayed its parity, nearly half, 47% of all conference games from 2018 to 2022 were one-score games, the highest in Power 5, into a 44% increase in per-school media payouts, despite losing Oklahoma and Texas as members. Parity and competitive balance in insurers directly translates into brand equity, and that is gold to the broadcasters. The Big 12 doesn't get that 44% raise without robust competitive balance. Parity requires that all conference members commit the resources necessary to compete at the highest level. The House settlement changed the formula. It introduced a new fixed operating expense that required allocating existing discretionary capital previously devoted to facilities, coaches, retention, recruited, and program infrastructure into mandatory payroll. If the ACC and the Big 12 hope to close the revenue gap with the Big Ten and the SEC, they must preserve a critical mass of programs capable of competing at that financial tier. Without it, parity becomes meaningless, producing competitive balance only within a league that is steadily losing relevance in the national hierarchy. The math tells a grim tale. Projections for both show a widening gap driven by slower media revenue growth and rising fixed costs tied to revenue sharing. Even optimistic scenarios fail to alter underlying trajectory. Fewer programs able to compete nationally, diminished playoff access, and declining leverage in the broader college football economy. And this is why, one of the reasons why I was such a big, and I am a big proponent of the 4-4-4-4-2-6. It establishes a baseline, a floor, a competitiveness within both the Big 12 and the ACC that is going to drive the value of their regularly seasoned games it's going to get more people with more exposure in those two conferences. Even if you're at the bottom of the resource scale, once in a while you're going to pop up, you're going to get one of those auto bids, or you're going to win a play-in game when you qualify for a play-in game to get one of those auto bids. The coup de grace, the coup de grace, unregulated NIL. Revenue sharing resets the cost floor of college football. Unregulated NIL determines which programs rise above it. Once conference distributions are largely spoken for, the primary differentiating factor becomes the donor support, the ability to supplement shared revenue with private capital. The capacity is unevenly distributed both within conferences and across them. Absolutely. In theory, most ACC and Big 12 schools can meet their revenue sharing obligations through institutional support. In practice, they cannot come close to the match in the donor-driven NIL ecosystems that now power the Big 10 and the SEC. The money does not flow through athletic departments. It flows through boosters, collectives, and private deals that are largely unregulated and detached from real endorsement value. What exists today is not a functioning NIL market. I would agree with that. It is a backdoor gamemanship, a recruiting and retention system that rewards the richest donor bases, not the best run programs. More donor money produces stronger rosters. Stronger rosters produce more wins and exposure, and that exposure attracts still more money. Once the cycle tilts, it accelerates. The economic reality for the pay-for-play era of college football is daunting for the ACC and the Big 12. Since NIL payments began in earnest in July 1st of 2021, the playoff picture has hardened into something brutally familiar. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, the same programs over and over, backed by the same donor ecosystems that have already dominated the sport. The names changed less than the dollars behind them. When you map playoff participants to key revenue categories, the pattern emerges is impossible to ignore. Revenue sharing, unregulated NIL, and the disparity in conference revenues combine to stratify a caste system in college football. At the top are the apex programs, the titans of college football, programs that benefit from donor support that often dwarf conference revenue. Absolutely. I mean, that's also true. It is that donor support. It is that massive donor contribution that really truly separates the revenue. That's why I say you want unequal revenue sharing in the Big Ten? Well, the Buckeyes do. Penn State does, but they already make $100 million more than your Minnesota, your Purdue, your Maryland, They already make a whole lot more, and none of that has to do with media revenue. It has to do with all the other ways that they create revenue. The separation, even within the conferences, gets larger and larger and larger. Back to Christopher Lambert's article. Not surprising, the most affluent titans are concentrated in the Big Ten and the SEC. If you rank Power 4 members by using donor contributions, 10-year total, 26 of the top 35 donor bases belong in the Big 10 and the SEC. The ACC and the Big 12 together scrape together another dime. That's not imbalance. That's structural separation. The schools that live in the top tier of donor given also live in the playoff. Everyone else gets the occasional invite, but they don't get to stay. They are tourists. They pass through when the bracket breaks just right or when they happen to be the highest ranked outsider, but they are not built to survive. They're not built to survive in a donor-driven pay-for-play economy. And finally, in Christopher Lambert's article at Atomic Noodle, what comes next? The real danger facing the ACC and the Big 12 is not competitive imbalance. It is the cost of meaningful competition in the new economic model of college football, where unregulated NIL has become the primary engine of advantage. Both leagues are being priced out of national relevance. They simply lack the financial gravity to orbit around the sports titans. Mark Twain, it is not the things we don't know that gets us into trouble. It is the things we know for sure that just ain't so. And the thing many fans still believe, that tradition, parity, or clever management can overcome structural capital deficits, just ain't so. In part 2, we'll stop arguing about which conference has the louder fans and start looking at the only thing that actually matters now, survival. How the ACC and the Big 12 plan to navigate a post-NIL, post-media bubble world, and whether either of them has a path forward that doesn't end in slow, inevitable irrelevance. Christopher Lambert, the dude of West Virginia, putting out an article, and I want to thank him. I want to thank him for letting me read that article, and I appreciate you all listening to it. That is part 1. Other parts will be coming, and I will read those parts here live if Christopher Lambert gives me the permission. And what I do think Christopher Lambert, I know that he has been, I'm sure he's going to talk about other options out there. But Christopher Lambert has been talking about the merger option for a long time between the Big 12 and the ACC. And that is why the title screen is Miracle Merger, only method of survival. This is why, and I tried to explain it at the time, but this is why Texas and Oklahoma both called the Southeastern Conference together. It's not because they did not both generate a lot of money in the Big 12. It wasn't because they did not get a lot of donation money. It wasn't. The Oklahoma and Texas were going to have a much more difficult time winning an SEC conference title. The reason why they called the SEC is because they knew that there was going to be this massive structural change. They predicted, they projected that student athletes were going to eventually get paid. They believed that this NIL world was going to come. And how much could they ask their biggest donors to keep helping them out, to stay with the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Michigan, and Ohio States? Texas has a massive athletic department. Their top are number 2 in revenue. And they were in the top 2 in revenue when they were in the Big 12. But a lot of that had to do with this outside, this booster money. They knew they were going to start falling short in conference-generated money. We talked about this. It's like a horse race. It's like a horse race. If you are in the Big 12 and the ACC at the start of the race, the Big Ten, the top Big Ten schools and the top SEC schools, they get a 430-yard advantage on the track in a 1.5-mile race. Their gate is way up on the track. You're way behind. You have to ask your boosters in the Big 12 and the ACC. You have to have that ecosystem that Chris Lambert's talking about. You have to have that ecosystem be much larger, be much more efficient, just to close the gap with the SEC and the Big Ten schools. The top ones of those two conferences. Because you're $35 million behind just in media money. And that gap is going to continue to grow. And one big example is the playoff distribution change that's going to be happening. There are programs in the ACC and the Big 12 that can keep up right now. They can. They've got billionaires that can keep up. But again, you don't want to be that far behind every single year. That's why Texas and Oklahoma called the SEC. That is exactly why USC called the Big Ten. And I explained that at every post, everything I did in 2022. I explained the reasons why USC called the Big Ten. It's because the donors could not keep double dipping every single year just to give USC the same opportunity as Ohio State, Georgia, and Michigan to compete at the highest level. And that gap is only going to widen. So the question is there an answer? Is there something that the Big 12 and ACC can do? What are the options? And that is what Christopher Lambert is going to talk about in his next few parts. I'm going to talk about it right now. There are 4 options. There are 4 scenarios facing the ACC and the Big 12. 4 of them. One is the miracle merger. Somehow, some way the ACC and the Big 12 merge. And there are people out there that believe if you bring in all this content, you're going to have a whole lot more leverage with your current or potential media partners to extract more value, more dollars out of those media companies. If you combine, the bigger the bundle, the more extraction you can get. There is that theory out there. ACC Big 12 merger. Could that happen? If it happened, could it work? The other options are this. A reimagined ACC. Now that's only going to work for some ACC schools. The top 6, 8, 10, 12 football brands of the ACC, they go their own way. They have the exit hatch. They have the exit hatch because of the ACC settlement with Florida State and with Clemson. They can get out and form a football-only conference. And that settlement also said that the ACC, the rest of the schools, would have to continue taking in those schools' other Olympic non-revenue sports, according to the settlement that everybody signed off on. The ACC versus Clemson and Florida State. So there is this exit hatch created for a reimagined ACC. That's an option. The other option is, and the biggest one I believe is an option going forward, is the ACC eventually gets poached and the Big 12 and the ACC continue to battle on like they are. And then the other option is the best of the rest. The ACC schools and the Big 12 schools, the top brands, they get together, they talk, cloak and dagger style, and somehow they form that third power conference, the top 18, the top 20 brands between the current 33 schools that make up the ACC and the Big 12. This is my ranking of what I think is most likely going to happen. Number one, this is the most likely that I think is going to happen. I think the ACC is going to get poached. There's a possibility that a couple schools in the Big 12 get poached by the SEC of the Big 10. I just think that's the most likely thing that is going to, because I know there has been so much discussion, so much positioning. I know that the Big 10, I don't care what Bobinski says in public. I don't care who says what in public when it comes to the Big 10. We're not looking at it. We're not looking at it. Yes, they are. They have game scenarios out. The Big 10 has a thirst, an incentive, a reason to expand once again. And so does the Southeastern Conference. And I think it's going to be almost impossible for some of those ACC schools to turn it down. I think it's going to happen. In fact, I've said, I think on or before June 1st of 2027, I think North Carolina is going to change. They're going to make their announcement to change their status. We'll go on that. I've already talked about it. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But I think that is the most likely scenario. The second most likely scenario, and I think this is going to surprise people, is the reimagined ACC. Why do I say that? Because there are people at Chapel Hill, there are people at Virginia, there are people at Georgia Tech. There is a faction of administration. There's a faction of old school boosters. There is this live faction that don't want to let their friends go. They do not want to completely rip up what they have. If they can create a different football-only association among a Clemson, a Florida State, a Miami, a Georgia Tech, a Virginia, a North Carolina State, a Virginia Tech, if they can build that association up and have a bigger renegotiated media contract, bring other media companies into the bidding that is not ESPN, according to the ACC settlement, that is something that they've been looking at. They have been looking at that. I think that's the second most likeliest option. As strange as that may sound to you, but the chatter behind the curtain is, number one, the chalk is the ACC gets poached. But I believe the second one is the reimagined ACC. The third most likeliest option is the best of the rest. Man, I believe there has been opportunities. There's been some cloak and dagger. These meetings when they talk to these private equity companies, when they talk to these third-party guys with a lot of cash, with a lot of networking. We know there are true believers in the Big 12. We know there are true believers in the ACC. And we know there are non-believers in the Big 12. There's non-believers in the ACC. But there are true believers on both sides of the river. And some of them are the biggest brands on both sides of the river. It's highly unlikely this would happen, but I think it's the third likeliest option of the four, that somehow the best of the rest get together, they exit their two conferences, and they form that third power conference around 2029, 2030. The fourth likeliest option is the merger. I think that is the fourth likeliest option. And why do I say that? Because I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. I think there's going to be high doubts that it would bring in a whole lot more revenue, even though you're bundling a bigger content. I think people would rather look at some of the top biggest brands. If the top ACC schools want to stick together, I think they'd rather do the best of the rest or reimagine ACC. I don't think a merger would be able to compete with the SEC and the Big 10. I don't think a merger, you would have to take those two commissioners and work together. And I really don't think it's possible. Even if they truly believe that was the right pathway to go down, I don't think they could pull it off. I really don't. The most likeliest scenario that's going to happen is the economic of consolidation is going to be more powerful than any conviction of let's stay together, let's do a reimagined ACC, let's do a best of the rest, let's form a power third conference. The SEC and the Big 10 have such advantages built in now that it's gotten to the point where I think some of these schools are going to be undercutting each other, saying, you don't have to give us that much to join the SEC. We'll take 50 cents on the dollar. What can we do for you, Sankey? What can we do for you, Petiti? The Big 10 wants markets in the Southeastern Conference, in the southeastern part of the country. And the SEC wants to grow their footprint. They want to diversify their student population. They want to go international. Both of these conferences have a lot of scenarios gamed out. And I think they're going to act on it. So that is the most likely option. The miracle merger, I think, is the least likely, with the best of the rest and a reimagined ACC somewhere in the middle. Give me your thoughts and comments in the comments section below the video, and we're going to open up the phone calls here in a little bit. I just want to make sure we've got a super chat. Jacobra Cat. Your voice is sunlight where kittens stay warm. Wow. Wow. Aww. That's nice, Jacoba Cat. Thank you for the $2 holler. Some say my voice is like a cat scratching on the carpet. I think a lot of people would say that. But thank you, Jacoba Cat. I appreciate it. The moderator, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the one who rules with an iron fist, is in the chat. Happy Saturday. Everybody saying howdy to Miss Flugar. Yes, give Greg credit. He does interact with the chat. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone. Tom DeBay, Greg has always done a great job paying attention to the chat. Except, I did a bad job the last time it went mute on me at the start of the show. I went into a 10-minute beautiful opening. Probably my best opening ever. And I was on such a roll that I wasn't paying attention to you all. And then when I finally looked in the chat, it was like, mute, mute, mute. Shut up, dummies, stupid dummies. Shut up. We can't hear you. So I did fail on that occasion. And I apologize for that. Healing, Florida is in the house. The old guard at UNC wants to renovate the Dean Dome. However, the new guard is rebuilding on the new Carolina North. Writing is on the wall. Yeah, that Carolina North. That Carolina North is that is a piece of land that UNC Chapel Hill, the university, actually owns. And they've owned it for a couple of decades. It's a great place for the university to expand. They're already going to expand undergraduate. They're going to expand their undergraduate students by 5,000 in the next 10 years. They could put the new Dean Dome on that piece of property instead of renovating the old one. You are correct. There is a new guard, old guard fight going on at Chapel Hill. You're absolutely... And before, it was a Kevin Gusowich versus... It was the old guard versus new guard fight, and the new guard took over the chancellorship at North Carolina. Now it's a new guard, old guard fight when it comes to Carolina North. The Dean Dome. Possible hockey arena. Like, there is a fight going on. It continues to go on at Chapel Hill. Phillips and Yormark working together. Yeah. Tom debate. Often a merger is combining the two dogs with fleas, which just makes a bigger dog with more fleas. Big Ten wants Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M wants the Big Ten. JBH4404, thanks for coming on in. Virginia Tech is the much larger fan base in its state, like twice the size of Virginia fan base. Jose has his comment about a reimagined ACC. Leprechaun probably wants the ACC Big 12 merger best of the rest. Okay, just let me check out something here. Thank you, Christopher Lambert. Christopher Lambert showed me Virginia Tech's athletic director projections that he showed. Remember when he showed at his board of trustees, a board of regents? Let me put that up on the board. This shows the gap, right? The ACC rev gap with Big Ten schools, rev gap with SEC schools. You see by 2030, there's a $40 million gap with the Big Ten, $34 million gap with the SEC. Big 12, there's a $46 million gap, $40 million gap. And I know Christopher Lambert indicated that he didn't exactly agree with these numbers, nor do I, but they're in the ballpark of what we're going to be seeing here. And this is where Christopher Lambert shows a $59 million gap with SEC, 59. I happen to believe that the SEC is going to be making more money per conference payouts than the Big Ten at about 2028, 2029. Virginia Tech's projections still have the Big Ten making more, but whatever. The bottom line is the gap grows and grows and grows. And of course, the rev share number, which is at 20.5 million right now, that's going to keep going up. That number is the average of all Power 4 athletic departments in the revenue that they make according to certain revenue buckets. So that number, that $20.5 million rev share, if it was just the SEC, if it was just the Southeastern Conference that had to fulfill the obligations of the ACC settlement, the House settlement, that $20.5 million rev share, that'd be higher. That'd be 27, 28 million. But because of all the Power 4 programs and their conference payouts, how much money, revenue they make on tickets and everything else, media money, it's 20.5 million. So you're going to have the SEC and the Big 10 making more and more and more. That rev share number is going to go up and up and up. And it's going to be harder and harder for many of the Big 12 and ACC schools to fulfill the maximum of that rev share number. If that rev share number even exists in a couple of years from now, because the SEC might go alone, or we might rip the cap. There might not be a salary cap, a rev share cap anymore in another year. Who knows where that is going? Yeah, the Big 10 will have a new TV deal in 2030. Okay, let me hold on a little bit more here. See if I got any more information. And then we're going to open up the phone lines. I'm sorry I've been talking for so long. This is a Saturday show. I really wanted to open up the phone lines earlier. Okay. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Let me know, what scenario do you believe is most likely for the future of the ACC and the Big 12 Conference? Let me know what is most likely. What do you want to happen? Or talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. Again, it is January 31st. We are heading into February. We are going to get more information on spring football games, spring practices. Some are going to be opening up in March. We are going to be doing our own spotlight series. Once again, we'll be taking one team, doing a spotlight, showing the guys, the best players. We got to be keeping an eye on for that team to do the best that they can. We did it last year, and people loved it. We're going to do it again this year. I cannot wait to do the spotlight series. In February, we're all going to have to be walking in to the Holy Smokes Theater. There's going to be an update in the Holy Smokes Theater. We're going to first offer that update in the early peak Cloak and Dagger episodes in the next week. But there's going to be an update at the Holy Smokes Theater. The last update was Act 1, Tar Heels, third party action. The next update this coming week is going to be Act 2. And there's going to be a certain title. I'm not going to reveal that right now. But we're going into Holy Smokes Theater Act 2 coming up this very next week. So, if you want to become a member of our program, go to the link in the description box below the video and hit the link. If you just want to be notified of our next live show, make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell, share the video, and smash the like button. I would very much appreciate it if you've enjoyed our content. The phone lines are open. Give us a call. I know we've been on the air for an hour and 30 minutes, a little bit longer than what we were going to do on a Saturday, January 31st. But I am willing, loving your phone calls if you want to call in. Gopher Wrestling beat Iowa in Iowa City last night for the first time in ages. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Yes, I did cover Lou Holtz. Yes, I did. Yep, right off the bat. So where is all this money going at Nebraska with some programs getting threatened to be cut? This makes no sense. Where does all the money go? Rod Nix is in the house. Jason Spangler is coming on in. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Rod Nix. My prof is here. Give us a call. ESPN brings in Florida State and Clemson. That will cover the cost of bringing in UNC and Virginia. That is my big scoop theory. Not a report, but a theory. Go Black 45. Thanks for that comment. Again, the phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Who's going to pay more money for Virginia versus Wake Forest in a reimagined ACC? I don't think a Wake Forest would be in a reimagined ACC. I don't think you're going to get that game in a reimagined ACC. Not in football. Let me Super Chat. Joe Cobra Cat. Your top 10 G6 programs. Oh, God. Not in any particular order. Not in any particular order. University of South Florida. Tulane. Memphis. Boise State. I don't know what to do with James Madison. I'll include James Madison. I really think that I think UTSA's got to be up in there in the top 10. Back end of the top 10. I think UTSA has a chance to be the top of the American. And of course, I got this big heart for Navy and Army. San Diego State has a chance. That's about 10. That's about 10. I don't think UNLV quite makes the top 10. But that's what I think. That's about 10 of them. Let's pretend that was 10 of them. I can't count. Minnesota math does not allow me to count to 10, so we'll just say that's 10 of them. Thank you, Jacoba Cat. Thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. All right, guys, we're going to be closing it up. Nobody wants to call the fat guy from Minnesota. I completely understand why that is. But I want to thank you all for joining us on a Saturday, January 31st. I want to thank Jacoba Cat, Carla Jenkins, Bill G, Christopher Hooter, Larry McCauley. Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Carson and John Teal, thank you for your donations to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. This is January 31st. Tomorrow is the first day of the next month. We are in heart of winter. But soon, it's coming. Spring football and all that, what happens with spring football. I cannot wait. And we're going to go in the Holy Smokes Theater this week. We're going in. We haven't been in there in a month. We're going in there this week with an update. So again, you got to subscribe, ring the notification bell, and please share the video and smash the like button if you've liked our content today. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.